I'm Russell from Ecostoves Australia, and you'll notice that the boxes are branded Himalayan Rocket Stove, which is my company in India where we make these stoves, and it's the territory, Himalayas is the territory for which this stove was designed, but I like the design so much I thought I'd bring it into Australia and probably to other parts of the world as well. So I'm just going to unbox this. This is the stove, this is the pipe kit, and there's a couple of little things that need to be put together. So I'll just show you how they go together. Now, first of all, just notice there's arrows pointing up, so that shows us the top. You'll need a sharp knife. I don't like using plastic, but for shipping purposes, things go rusty at sea, so here's the plastic. And what we have here, so this also has some of the pieces we need for this. So there's pipes, obviously, there's the side panels, these are the glass panels, and there's a little box of accessories. There's probably a few ways of doing this. I'm also doing this for the first time. If that doesn't work, you could just cut the sides of the box. What I'm going to do, make it much simpler, just got my trusty knife, I'm just going to cut the corner of the box. Okay, so I'm going to remove the plastic wrap. Rightio, so taking the plastic off, you'll notice there's a little piece of paper in here with your care and maintenance and some instructions on what needs to be assembled. So fairly simple. I'll just point this towards you. So we have the door, little catch, and we have the tool. So we want to pull out everything out of here. That's the wind cap for the flue. Tin of paint, touch-up paint. So this is a special heat-proof paint, which we've tried a lot, and we like this one. This one works well. And but once you use it, and even these stoves, they've been sprayed, but they haven't been fired, obviously. So there will be some off-gassing the first time you fire it. So if possible, I do suggest that you set it up and fire it outside first time. Or if you are inside, make sure you do it in the daytime with the doors and windows open, so that you can just let it breathe for probably 30-40 minutes, and that'll just get rid of all of the noxious gases that come out of any kind of paint. So yeah, we deliberately threw in an extra can because we weren't sure if there'd be any scuff marks from the shipping process, and this has actually come up pretty good, to be honest. There's a little bit of marking on the top, so I'm just going to keep this as a spare, which I'll use maybe sometime down a track after some wear and tear. Then I can just touch it up with that. Okay, so we've got also that's some instructions about the paint. And you'll see that base tray, that's the grill plate, right, the ash tray. So it's deliberately open backed, so just be careful when you pull it out. That's so that if you do take it out mid-burn and more ashes fall down, you can just slide that back in and it will scoop up the ashes. So that's designed like that. And then this piece, this little top window, needs a glass, as does the door. So we've got two glass panels. Now this glass is ceramic glass. It's the best quality high temperature glass we can find, and they're quite pricey, these panels. So we try and make sure that they travel well. If by chance anyone has a broken panel, let me know. I do have a few spares. It's really important that you take the protective, it's got some protective pads and some tape around the edge. Now don't leave that on. It looks like it might be a gasket, but it's not actually. It's actually just plastic tape, and the first time you fire it, it'll melt and make a horrible mess. So find the end and just peel that off. That's just there to protect the edges. Comes from our supplier like that. Now it is very high temperature, but it's very brittle as well, so do be quite careful with it. And you just peel off these little pads, and there's little brackets here. So I'm going to loosen these brackets and sit this glass panel in here. In fact, it actually just slides in there. So then actually I can just slide it in, and I'll just need to tighten those two little brackets to hold that glass in place. Yeah, I'll bring the camera closer. So in here, just make a little bit of space. Just a little look in our toolkit. Okay, so we've got the top lids. So you can see there's two holes for the top lids, and then we have here, that's the flue pipe adapter. Now, these adapters were designed for outdoor usage. Right, so that will screw in there, and the pipes, in the pipes kit, I'll show you, there's one pipe that says first pipe, and it fits over this piece. Now, for indoor usage, I know some of you are thinking to use it inside. I actually have a larger adapter where the flue pipe will fit inside the piece, which is better in case you're using it indoors, just because of moisture will then funnel down inside the unit and you won't get any coming around the edges. So if you are planning to use yours indoors, then let me know, and we can get in touch and talk about getting you the larger adapter. Okay, but this one is designed to go here, and you see there's a few nuts. Oh, there's also the feet. Okay, so we've got 4 legs, and there's a spanner and a Allen key, hexagonal key, which is designed to use with these nuts, so they have a little, this work like that. And so in this case, this thread straight in, and use either end of the Allen key and just screw 4 little bolts in there. I would just do it loosely until you get them all in. Okay, and then here you can see there's 2 nuts and nuts because there's a locking nut on the door, and I'll just get down here. I'm just going to hold that little bracket in place. I've got my locking, my hex key here, and a spanner, and I'm just going to tighten that up a little bit. Make sure the bracket's in firm. Yep, and then just get it firm with my fingers and then tighten it. The spanner. Okay. So you don't have to do it crazy tight. It's just a little bracket just to hold that glass in place. And as you can see, there's no gaskets or seal. That's deliberate because with a rocket stove system, the engine is sucking air up dynamically through the system, whereas in a slow combustion heater, you're trying to starve the oxygen, and that's why they go to a lot of effort to seal the door and seal the glass. It's just not needed in a rocket stove system because they're actually designed for higher flow of air rather than slow flow. So you can see here we have holes in the back of the system. That's actually where it breathes. Those holes feed air into a double wall, which then feed air into a channel in the middle, which also feed air into what we call primary preheat air towers. So this is the secret sauce that makes our engines run really hot, our stoves. So that's what we call primary preheat tower, so that air, when you close the door, you don't need to keep this air, the glass slider can be closed and it will breathe. So just when you're lighting, we have that open, but if you close that, it breathes from the back and preheated air comes through the system and it increases the overall temperature of the unit. And then we have other areas where preheated airflow come in. We've got little air pockets coming in at the back here, and also in a central tube in the middle upstairs. So the whole system is designed to work with preheated airflows, which make it burn in really high temperatures, which means it runs really hot and runs really clean. And we'll have our little Allen key tool here. And what we need to do is take off this front upper window panel. There's a panel which comes off so that we can put the glass in place, and then we'll have to put that back in place. So there's two screws with a hex head, and I'll bring the camera in closer so you can see, but those two have to come off so that we can take off this little panel. Okay, so now this is probably the trickiest bit in the whole process, because what's happened is I've found that these screws tend to be a bit tight, and it can be easy to strip the thread if we're not careful. To strip the head, actually, the hex head is a little bit soft, so it's really important that you get the hex key, you get it in there really firmly, deep, and then you just crack it and spin it out. So that one actually came out really easily, like so, and of course remembering to turn anti-clockwise. I'll just come over this side, and same thing, I'm just going to get it in there really deep and firm and just carefully crack the thread. Okay, and if I'm really careful, I find it tends to come out easily, but I have, when I wasn't looking as carefully as I am now, I have noticed that some of these are a little bit tight and they can be a little bit tricky to get out. So just really be careful with this particular part of the process, and just take these two threaded bolts out like so, and then this panel, just give it a little tug. Okay, first I put the glass in, so we have our piece of glass. Where's my knife? Whoop. Okay, fumbled that. Try not to do that, don't want to break it. The thing about this glass, so this is the story with this piece. The original design didn't have glass at the top. For those of you who were watching from the beginning, in fact even the first people who purchased, this was a much simpler device. It didn't have glass here or here. The door was metal and there was just a panel here. So the reason why we added glass is because we realized it's really nice to be able to see the fire in there, and that's definitely true. We've had the glass here, we actually love seeing the fire up in that secondary combustion zone. It's a really dynamic thing to be able to watch. Adds a lot of aesthetic to the whole design. However, one of the things, because this is our first version of this stove, one of the things we hadn't factored in was an air wash system to stop the glass from going smoky, getting sooty. So this particular panel, there's no air wash, no air holes, and it does get sooty. So we've been working on a new design of this piece for the same glass and fits the same opening here,
but it actually has a row of holes at the bottom which creates an air wash, and what that means is it sucks in air which keeps the soot away from the glass. So what I'm hoping to do is bring those in. I've got to send them out from India, and try and find a postage option that means I can get them to you guys, our early customers, as cheaply as possible. I haven't costed it out yet. The actual metal component I'm going to cover from our side. I might need to just ask for something for the postage, depending what that comes to, just to cover the cost of posting it out. But that will be a way to then make the glass up the top stay clearer for longer. Glass in fireboxes tend to get sooty eventually. The other thing about the new design is it's got a very quick access slider, so you can actually just take the glass out very easily and clean it before you light it each day. So it stays cleaner for longer, and it becomes much easier to clean. Anyway, that's in the process, in the works. Also the same with the hood adapter. I do have some larger ones in the country already, and I'm getting more sent out. So if you want the larger ones for the pipe to sit inside, let me know. And otherwise these, I'll show you about that shortly, but first we'll just get this back on. So assuming you can get this nut off, then you get the glass in there, you just carefully sit that back in place, and we put this. I use the terms nut and bolt fairly interchangeably. It's technically a bolt, but sometimes I just feel like saying nut for some reason. Like I said, a little bit loose, but don't worry about it. Okay, so that's that part of it, and then the next bit will be the pipes. You'll notice in the box one that says first type. As the name would suggest, it's going to be the first pipe, and you can see that the ends are different. In India, this is what we call black metal. We use this because it's darker and it does radiate quite well. And sort of the first pipe is designed to sit like that, and then you'll see it's got the taper going up, so then all the subsequent pipes will taper up. There are 3 pipes in this black metal, and then there are 3 in GI, which is galvanized iron, which is the kind of shinier stuff. The shiny stuff is designed, it's better outdoors, it's more rust resistant. This will tarnish with rust. So what you can do if you want to preserve it in a moistened atmosphere is you can just rub it with a bit of oil, and when it gets hot, that oil will burn off, it'll smoke, but it'll also create a coating. Same thing you do with like a cast iron frying pan. So we have, these are in the pipes box. The 2 side panels, these are optional, but they will just give a bit of touch protection on the side. The sides are very hot, the back is not so hot because it's double walled at the back. Top is very hot. So in terms of heat radiance, if you put these on, you'll probably feel a little bit less radiant heat from the sides, but you'll still get the convective heat. So convective heat means the airflow, the air will warm up because the air will still run around the whole sides of the unit and get warm. But the radiant heat is that radiation that comes from the heat that is emitted from this, especially from a black surface. Black surfaces in particular radiate heat very well, as opposed to a shiny surface which don't radiate heat very well. So okay, so that sits in there. There are 4 bolts on the side panel which we just loosen, and we've got little slots and we just drop that in. Okay, so I just did the other side and found it was quite easy. You just undo these 4 corner bolts,
just loosen them off. You don't have to take them right out. I loosen them on the one with the short bit, then the long bit I can just easily spin it a couple of times around. Just create a bit of a gap between the head of the bolt and the wall. Right, and then with the tab, that side facing down, just slide it in, and you can just literally slide it in over the bolts, the heads, top and bottom, just like that. And then just do it up. Again, no need to do it super tight, just make it firm enough that it's not going to go anywhere. And this really will add a whole level of touch safety, because the sides of these units do get incredibly hot to touch. And with this, there will be, it'll still get warm, it will get quite hot, but you won't be burning hot. Okay. Now I'm going to set it up with the flue pipe. So this is how I will probably use it, as a little outdoor stove. We can see the fire, we can cook, 2 pot holes, and we have this tool. So the tool is designed for lifting the lids and also the door. So you can open and close the door with that tool, and if you need to poke the fire, so you can open. Also, you can control the air slider underneath. So the air slider is just the nut on the left-hand side. We'll slide. This one is just a placing nut, locating nut for the inside slider. So sliding, door control, potholes, hot plates, and just hang it there. I've used, that's one of the black pipes and GI pipe and the wind cap or rain cap. So there are 6 of these, 3 of each of these in the kit, and I would tend to use these, the black ones for indoors, and then the GI, if you are going out through a roof, then I would put these ones through the roof, having these on the outside. They're more weather resistant, and these will radiate more heat. So yeah, that's basically the setup. Alright, so if you're going to go through a roof, do a roof penetration, then what's really important to do right is to put additional pipes to create heat shielding. And it depends, of course, on your roof and what the material is. Like if you're in a shed, for example, and you're just going straight through a metal roof, then as long as the pipe is not too close to a rafter, some kind of wood, by too close I mean, like probably closer than 100 mil, then it should be fine. You don't need any additional pipe insulating materials. But let's say you're going through a ceiling and there's a cavity, and then there's like a tin roof, for example, and in the cavity is there insulation. This is where it gets really important to do the right thing, because if you have insulation in that cavity, you really must create a safety buffer around the pipe so that you don't start a fire in your ceiling cavity that you don't see. If you do choose to install it internally, then it's completely up to you what you do, but please do the roof penetration correctly, and at least do it safely. That's the main point. And then, of course, make sure that you don't have the stove too close to any heat sensitive surfaces, and that it is sitting on a floor pan or a surface which is also not heat sensitive. So I really do ask that you do that part of it correctly if you are going to put it internally, even if you're not worried about getting it certified or legal, at least do it safely. Okay, I might, if you have any questions, do let me know, and what I can do is I can share links to the legal requirements maybe for doing that, maybe some guidelines. I'll put them on the website, and I can't really advise everybody individually how best to do it individually. I'm giving some general outlines so that I suggest that you look it up for yourself how to do it properly. Any fireplace, any firebox internally installed has to have these basic safety conditions met, and there are of course people who do that, and there are of course kits for this additional pipes that you can buy from combustion stove specialists. Some Bunnings have some things, hardware stores generally have some of those bits, like the rubber boots. Yeah, okay, so good luck with that. Alright, so now for the fun bit, I'm just going to light her up. So I've just got some little sticks and some slightly bigger sticks, and once that gets going, then obviously you can put in bigger wood. It's, in case it's not obvious, wood-fired stove. Several people ask me about pellets. I have made pellet-based rocket stoves in the past. This is not that. This is definitely a wood-fired stove, and works just like a normal wood-fired stove in terms of how you use it. It's just the technology in terms of how it burns the smoke is what's quite unique about this. I would call this a flat rocket stove, as in it uses the concept of a rocket stove, which is a secondary combustion process for the off-gassing of the primary combustion. So when the wood burns, you always get an off-gassing, and we see the stuff we can see, the smoke, the particulates, are long chains of hydrocarbons which have not fully combusted. So in a rocket stove scenario, those long chain hydrocarbons get drawn up into a secondary chamber, which is this section at the top. In a conventional rocket stove, that's a vertical riser tube, and heat is trapped. There is an inflow of sufficient oxygen, in this case preheated oxygen, to and an increased temperature which facilitates the combustion of that of those long chain hydrocarbons in that secondary combustion zone. And so what happens then is you get roughly double the heat for the same amount of fuel, and you also get a really clean combustion. So I'll get this going and you'll see initially there will be some smoke, but when it gets up to temperature, after 5 or 10 minutes, it will actually start burning quite clean, to the point where you actually can't see any visible smoke. So let's get it going. Throw that in there. Now, I do tend to cheat. Shout out to these guys. I've got no affiliation, but I find that they're a really good brand. Samba Firewool. Apparently it's natural wooden wax, and I just find it really makes the fire lighting process really easy. Of course you can use paper, especially if it's dry enough, but I find that paper tends to make a lot of ash, and the ash gets in the way of everything else that's trying to get ignited. So these work really good. Okay, so I've obviously just got the fire going, and once there's enough wood in there, close the door. I've just left the slider at the bottom here open, and another way of controlling air is the ashtray itself. If you just open that a little bit, you're actually going to allow a path of air to come in underneath the grill. So sometimes if I'm like refueling it, so you've got a bed of coals and it's burnt down low,
and I put a bit of extra wood on top, sometimes I find it's actually opening the ashtray just to let the air come in through that bed of coals into the new material can be a really nice, easy way to get it going again. But in this case, I don't think we need that. So it's just going to start heating up the system. The gas flow is going to come up from there, come around here, and then go up through the flue. So once the flue gets a bit of heat in the flue, that's warming up now, that starts the process of drawing air through the system, and then once that airflow gets going, it actually, you can see the rockets process start to fire up. Okay, I'm firing this for the first time, and I just wanted to show you something. You can see a little bit of smoke coming off of the surface. Now that's normal, and that's part of the process of the whole thing bedding in. The paint's got to cure, there's some oily coating on the pipe, so all that stuff needs to burn off. So that's why I suggest that you fire it the first time outside like this, and just get the whole system really hot, and that will cure it in a way, get rid of all of those things that just need to off-gas a little bit out of the system, burn off the oils and the volatiles in the paint, and then once it's kind of all bedded in, then it will be much cleaner and more ready to install into a more closed environment, if that's what you're going to do with it. So there was quite a bit of visible smoke coming out of that initially. There's still a little bit, but that's probably about 5% of what there was coming out initially. So it's really already starting to run quite clean, and I'd say it's been burning for about more than 5, maybe less than 10 minutes.